Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome to my video about what is absolutely the strongest ranked Q build on Ellie right now. Fresh Air Core Ellie. Um, at some point last season, about a week and a half before the season ended, I stopped experimenting on Weaver and I thought, hey, I'll just try to climb on what I'm most comfortable with and what I know is the strongest in this meta because of Spellbreakers and Scourge, which is a ranged build, Fresh Air. And I ended up going on a 25 win, 2-loss win streak. And in the 2 games I lost, there was 6+ known PvP players, very good matches. They were super fun. And one of them I'm pretty sure I got really frustrated on because we lost because it was my mistake. And the other one was just really close. So I could have it was realistic. I could have gone 27-0. I carry matches so well on this build. You range Scourges, so you don't have to worry about them doing their melee shenanigans on you. You can actually 1v1 Spellbreakers because they simply cannot catch you, and as long as they're not hitting their burst abilities, which is really hard for them to hit their burst abilities on you, they don't get adrenal health, so they don't have their sustain, and they just die. Fresh Air is just like that. Everything dies. Very high damage from range. And with all the super speed and the healing you get from water, you survive a long time. I've seen a lot of people saying that they're really digging Weaver Fresh Air, which does insane damage, don't get me wrong, but it has no survivability, so it's really weak. It reminds me a lot of Unload Thief, but a weaker version, where if the enemy team has competent players that have builds that are able to take you out, you'll end up not being very useful. But like I said, I believe Scepter Fresh Air Weaver is weaker than Unload Thief. It dies even easier. And this build does almost as much damage as Scepter Fresh Air Weaver, but it's much more consistent. You can keep your Air 1 going for much longer periods of time compared to with the Weaver version. And the Weaver version is much more about you set up a burst from 1 attunement and you swap to Air and you do Mega Burst. And it's strong damage, don't get me wrong, but if I was a Fresh Air core and the enemy team had a Fresh Air Weaver, I would feel much more comfortable on this. The survivability of this build is very manageable. About the only thing in the game that could chase you down and threaten your life and kill you is either 2 people or a SD Power Thief or SD Conti Thief, and maybe Mirage. I have my suspicions about Mirage, but there's not very many people playing Mirage right now. So maybe next season when Scourge and Spellbreaker are nerfed, Mirage makes it onto the scene, and this gets a little bit weaker. It's hard to say, but either way, absolutely this build is like tier 1 material in solo queue, if not maybe the strongest solo queue carrier on NA right now. On EU, I understand that things are a little bit tankier, but this build is even good against Firebrands and Tempests. I kill them so fast. If you were trying to 2v1 a Firebrand, this build is absolutely really good. If they ever go into their Tome of Courage and start spamming Aegises, you're channeling Air number 1 on them, which hits 3 times every second or something, so you absorb all the blinds and Aegises they ever do to you, which is just a strong part of why this build is so good. You ignore a lot of mechanics, so you don't have to worry about projectile destruction. You have a completely instant cast lightning strike, so you can pretty much time it after dodges. You don't have to worry about Aegises and blinds. It's just always really powerful sustained pressure from range. This is a projectile, so you have to worry about that, but still. So anyways, the build, there's some choices that I've made here to account for the meta of this season compared to pre-POF. And it starts right here, where Arcane Precision is really strong on Fresh Air Ellie because you're almost always hitting an air at least, so you pretty consistently put the weakness up, and weakness is really strong. But this season it doesn't really matter to put weakness on Scourges, and weakness on Spellbreakers also doesn't do much because they have almost permanent resistance. So, but it could very easily change to where we want to take this again. And also, right here I'm using Exploitation because, again, Doom doesn't matter against those classes. But Doom is the best one, depending on what you're fighting from the enemy team. It's not like either this or Exploitation are bad choices. but they just work better this season compared to Doom and Arcane Precision, I feel like. But that could very easily change, and you could use the other setup even this season. It would still be really good. They're not huge changes, they're just small changes to account for changes in the meta. And then here we use the final shielding. When you're using Ele Surge, you reduce the cooldown of final shielding here, so it's very nice. You get a lot of arcane shields in this build, which is, it's a big part of our defense, which is one reason why we're so vulnerable to SD thieves, because they just spam number 3 and it's unblockable. Fun game. And then Ele Surge is super important. So typically, like you just go between air, earth, air, water, air, fire, and air, fire would be the one that people would be afraid of. Like you'd cast number 1 and go to fire, and they'd be like, okay, Phoenix is coming. I have to watch out. But now, when you attune to earth, they have to be very scared too, because you can hit them with an arcane blast and immobilize them, like so. And if they don't have a way to get out of that immobilized, as you can see, you pretty much just attune to earth, arcane blast, attune to air, lightning strike, and they're like, it's a ton of damage. I don't even use that much ability, like that many abilities. Like fresh air damage is crazy. So yeah, that's we got Scepter Focus, Exploitation Energy, Scholar, and then Marauder. And then in air, you just do the 2-2-2 build, which is standard in air. You need the super speed because that's everything. This is better than the other choices, and then fresh air. It's the core of the build. And then in water, these are pretty much always the go-tos. Reduced cooldowns in water is just super important. Having these off cooldown is very good for offense and dazing opponents. This is good for healing, so overall, just really strong to have reduced cooldowns in water. And then this is for some Condy removal. One when you attune water, and one when you do water trident. It's better than the other two choices, so that's the build. I'll go over a few things here. So the gist of the build, the rotation, as people like to ask for, is basically you just cast air number 1, swap attunements, and then you do some stuff, and you swap back. Cast air number 1, swap attunements, do some stuff, swap back. And in this way, we solve all the problems that Scepter has, which are huge. If you're using Scepter without fresh air, you're doing it wrong, because the other attunements auto attacks are so bad. And this auto attack is so good. This allows us to be able to do high consistent damage. And then, so an example of doing something, you know, you cast air 1, you come to fire, you do something, you're like, okay, I want to burst, you know. Oh, lightning flash didn't work. Never mind. These stairs make lightning flash not work, but examples of burst usually consist of lightning flash, so you know. I'll show you a burst here in a second. Also, I need to go over the heal, and people are going to question this big time because I've always used Signet of Restoration in the past, but I find I like Glyph more. Let me show you the burst here with Earth. You know, attune to Earth, throw the rocks, teleport in, dead. So, yeah, you have threatening kill damage from pretty much fire and earth at all times, as long as you have the cooldowns up, of course, and you know that they're burstable. But you don't even really need to worry about burst on this build to be successful. You could literally just play defensive and do consistent range damage, and I mean, your consistent range damage is so high it's almost like your burst. Also, you want to turn off the earth auto. You don't want to ever get the earth auto when you want the air auto, because it lasts so long, it delays you so much. Like getting water auto is not a big deal because it doesn't last very long. So then as soon as you cast it, you just go right back to casting air number 1. But getting earth auto is a real bummer. So turn that off and never use it unless you don't have anything to refresh air and you need to crit with it, then use it. But if you have anything else, Arcane Blast, Earth 2, Earth 3, try to crit with that first and then swap to air, so you don't have to use that garbage. Right, the heal. I'm going to go over the heal now. So, a little while back, the Signet was disabled and I had to use Glyph. So I was playing with Glyph, and the whole time Signet was down, I was just complaining. But when Signet came back up, I started playing with Signet, and I started feeling like, maybe Glyph has a place. So I played like 5 games with Glyph and five games with Signet, and I found the situations that I thought each of them were stronger in. And the situation that Signet is stronger in is either one, when you're snowballing and you're constantly doing damage, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Because if you're constantly casting spells and you're constantly taking a little bit of damage, like, it's going to keep healing and it's going to keep you doing damage because you don't have to cast your heal. So in that situation, you do more damage and you do more healing. It's not a big deal. And most of the time that happens, some people in chat, I don't know what they're doing, but it's distracting me. So in that situation, having Glyph heal or Signet heal isn't that big of a difference. You do a little bit less damage with Glyph, and you might do a little bit less overall healing. But if you do end up healing in water, it's going to give you the regen too, so that makes up for it. But the point still stands that when you're running Signet, and you're in a situation where you can constantly be casting stuff, you don't ever have to hide or wait, Signet's going to be healing you, and it's going to keep you doing damage. You won't ever have to kite out and heal back up and then go back in. But like I said, it's not a big difference. Like, you'll still most likely be snowballing the enemy and doing damage regardless of which heal you use. But let's say you get bursted from stealth and you have Signet. You attune to water, you water trident, you're at 5k life, and your vulnerability is running out from earth. You're probably dead after that as long as 2 people are still running after you. There's no way to recover. But if you have Glyph and you get bursted, at least you can burst heal, like, use this, attune to water, water trident. So the burst healing is really important. You need a form of burst healing to be able to survive situations like that. So the difference in that situation between Glyph and Signet is your death, right? It's the difference between everything. While in the situation that Signet's better, it's not that much of a difference. So I ended up playing with Glyph more, and I really like it more. I feel like my game overall is stronger. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. After all these years, we've replaced Signet finally on at least one build. So on Sword Weaver builds, I still use Signet because Sword Weaver has a lot of burst healing. So you pretty much always get, and also your auto attacks are fast. You are spamming auto attacks a lot on Weaver, so it takes advantage of Signet quite well on Sword, I think. And I think I do like Signet more on Sword still. Every 9 seconds you swap to water, Riptide, Blast Finisher. You do as much healing as Glyph does just through a healing combo on Sword. So yeah, that's an important distinction to make there, because yeah, everybody's been playing Signet on Fresh Air since forever, and now we're playing Glyph. Fire Greatsword is the best by far. Arcane Blast is huge utility with the Immobilize in Earth. It's so important. You can even get knockdowns off of it. Lightning Flash is good for offensive combos, also good offensively. Or map mobility, it's good everywhere, obviously. Everyone knows about Lightning Flash. Arcane Shield's our stun breaker, weak versus SD Thieves, but there really isn't anything that's good against SD Thieves. You take Armor of Earth, and they strip your stability and protection with Dagger number 3 or Steel. If you're playing Mistform, then you're not doing any damage back. I don't know, there's just no good choices against SD Thieves, so you just kind of take Arcane Shield and hope for the best, At least you prevent their auto attacks if they run out of initiative and can't use number 3. At best, SD Thief soft counters us. Like, we can counter kill them pretty easily too. And a lot of SD Thieves these days are using a new Deadeye build, or some of them even not on NA, but I've seen them on EU using a Daredevil version. But I simply would not be afraid of any of those. The one I'm really afraid of is Core SD. It has more survivability than the other ones. Well, maybe less than Daredevil, but it does more pressure than Daredevil. It hits this sweet spot where SD Daredevil doesn't do enough damage to kill me. Deadeye Daredevil can kill me really fast, but they're easy to kill. And then Core SD is really hard to kill, and they do enough damage to kill me. So Core SD Thief is the one true soft counter to this build. I feel like everything else in the game I'm good against. DP Dash Thieves have a really hard time against me, and I can kill them really easily because I have a permanent super speed while I'm chasing them. Like, just channel this into them and keep going. You know, keep that super speed up, and it's hard for them to get away. And if you hit the immobilize on this and they don't have a dodge, then they're sunk. I don't know. It's just really high damage. Hard for them to avoid. You know, projectiles, they're moving so fast it's hard to hit them, but with a beam and an instant cast lightning strike, it's easy to hit them. So yeah, if you're new to this build, and this is the strongest build for Ellie, and you can play this build free to play, you don't have to have any expansions, core Ellie. So if you're a new player to this build, what I would suggest at first is just learning the basics, you know, air 1, swap attunements, do some stuff, attune back, and use air 2 whenever you think it'll hit, and just keep that up and learn how to play defensive. Don't worry about burst. A lot of people have a misconception about Fresher Ellie that it's all about burst. Burst is really cool, but it's really not. If you can survive and do consistent damage, you'll carry. You'll carry fights big time. So learn all the survivability. Attuning to water and water trident are your heals. Tuning to air or earth can give you the Condy removal and the invulnerability. Sometimes you put the rocks above your head and attune to air, that way you have that extra toughness. Try to counter pressure people, like if they get close to you, make them afraid by casting Phoenix on them. If they back off, then that's okay, you reduce the damage you take. If they don't, you kill them. That kind of stuff, you know. I feel like Fresher Ellie is really underappreciated. It's extremely strong. I've talked to a few people in the competitive scene, and they don't think it's strong enough, but I think they're just wrong. This build's ridiculously strong. I think it deserves spots in competitive play even. At the very least, it deserves a chance at proving itself, but yeah. That's pretty much it. This video has gone on for 17 minutes, but there's a lot to say about Fresher Ellie. I'm pretty excited about the strength it's at. And it's an old build, so a lot of people know how to play it, but they have not gotten to the level to optimize it, I think. I think it's extremely strong. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Have a good one. And same thing as the other Weaver guides, I'll be posting gameplay in the description below and after the video. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the build, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to my YouTube to stay up to date with my latest videos, and follow my Twitch channel where I stream regularly. See you in my next video. Take it easy, everyone.